Before smartphones and streaming, Frasier was our weekly escape. From timeless beauty to quiet, peaceful lives today, their transformations are incredible. I saved the biggest shocker for the end. What is your best memory of this show? Let me know right now. Stepping out of the time machine at number 1 is Peri Gilpin. She was born Peri K. Oldham on May 27, 1961, in Waco, Texas. When Frasier premiered in 1993, Peri was just 32 years old. Today, at 64, she still carries that same spark that lit up every single scene. As Roz Doyle, the confident, fast-talking producer of Frasier's radio show, Peri gave us a character who was unapologetically bold and endlessly lovable. Roz was the best friend we all wanted in our corner, the one who always told it like it was. Here's a trivia gem. Before landing on Frasier, Peri actually worked as a real-life radio show sound engineer. She studied drama at the University of Texas at Austin and even trained at the British American Academy in London. After Frasier wrapped in 2004, Peri welcomed twin daughters, Stella Mae and Ava Pearl, born via a surrogate mother with her husband, painter Christian Vincent. She went on to grace other beloved shows like Desperate Housewives, Grey's Anatomy, Medium, and Scorpion. And yes, she returned for the Frasier revival on Paramount+, delighting fans once again as the one and only Roz. Off-screen, Peri and her dear friend Jane Leeves are godmothers to each other's children, a bond forged on set that has lasted a lifetime. At number 2, bring in the noise, we have Dan Butler. Born on December 2, 1954 in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Dan was 38 when he first crashed onto the Frasier set. Now, at 71, the years have only added depth to an already fascinating life. As Bob Bulldog Briscoe, the loud, brash, hilariously over-the-top sports radio host at KACL, Dan gave us one of the funniest recurring characters in sitcom history. Every time Bulldog burst through that studio door, you knew comedy gold was about to follow. Here's a fun fact. While Bulldog was the ultimate macho man on screen, Dan himself is a deeply thoughtful playwright and stage actor. He appeared in The Silence of the Lambs before joining Frasier, and he wrote and performed a critically acclaimed one-man show called The Only Thing Worse You Could Have Told Me, exploring life and identity with remarkable honesty and courage. Dan has continued working across theater, television, and film. He married acting teacher and director Richard Waterhouse in 2010, and their partnership has been a beautiful chapter in his story. At number 3, holding a special place in our hearts, we have Jane Leeves. Born on April 18, 1961 in Ilford, Essex, England, Jane was 32 when she first walked into Frasier Crane's apartment. At 64 today, she carries herself with a warmth and elegance that time simply cannot diminish. Oh, Daphne Moon, the quirky, warm-hearted, supposedly psychic Mancunian housekeeper who stole Niles Crane's heart, and ours right along with it. Daphne's journey from caretaker to the great love of Niles' life was one of the sweetest slow-burn romances in television history. For so many of us, Daphne was our first childhood crush. That girl next door with the accent and the smile that made everything feel all right. What many people don't know is that Jane originally trained as a ballerina at the Bush Davies School of Theater Arts. A foot injury ended that dream, but it opened the door to something even bigger. Before Frasier, she was one of Benny Hill's famous Hill's Angels dancers, and even had a tiny uncredited role in Monty Python's The Meaning of Life. After Frasier, Jane shone brightly in Hot in Cleveland for 6 seasons, alongside comedy legends like Betty White. She then took on a powerful dramatic role as Dr. Kit Voss in Fox's medical drama The Resident, running for 5 seasons from 2018 to 2023. She has been married to television executive Marshall Coben since 1996, and they have 2 children. Her Frasier co-stars Peri Gilpin, John Mahoney, and David Hyde Pierce are all godparents to her kids. If you thought those stories were something, wait until you see who is coming up next. By the way, Was Daphne Moon your childhood crush? Drop a yes in the comments right now. Stepping out of the time machine at number 4 is the incomparable Bebe Neuwirth. Born Beatrice Jane Neuwirth on December 31, 1958 in Newark, New Jersey, she was 34 when Frasier debuted. Today, at 67, she is living proof that true artistry only deepens with age. As Dr. Lilith Sternin, Frasier's intimidatingly brilliant ice-cold ex-wife, Bebe created a character so perfectly poised between terrifying and hilarious that every single one of her appearances was an event. Lilith was the one person who could out-intellectualize Frasier himself. She had originally played the role on Cheers, winning 2 Emmy Awards for it before bringing Lilith to Frasier as a recurring guest, turning down a regular role so she could return to Broadway. But here is where Bebe truly dazzles. Her first love has always been the stage. She started ballet at age 5, trained at the prestigious Juilliard School, and made her Broadway debut in a chorus line in 1980. She won 2 Tony Awards, one for Sweet Charity and another for Chicago, and in 2024, she was nominated for yet another Tony for playing Fräulein Schneider in the revival of Cabaret. As recently as early 2026, she's been starring in a new Audible musical alongside Alan Cumming and serving on the honorary committee for the Drama League Awards. They prove that there is so much more to life than a single iconic role. Bebe Neuwirth has gracefully danced between Broadway, television, and film for over 4 decades. At number 5, the man who kept CAC running, no matter what chaos Frasier and Bulldog threw his way, it's Tom McGowan. Born on July 26, 1959, in Belmar, New Jersey, Tom joined the show in 1998 at age 38. Today, at 66, he wears every year with the easy confidence of a man doing exactly what he was born to do. As Kenny Daly, the lovable, perpetually overwhelmed station manager, Tom brought a sweetness and warmth that balanced the show's sharper comedic edges. Kenny was the comforting, good-natured boss we all wished we had, the everyman in a room full of eccentrics. Tom McGowan is far more than Kenny Daly. He is a classically trained stage actor who graduated from the Yale School of Drama with a Master of Fine Arts degree. In 1991, he received a Tony Award nomination for Best Actor for his Broadway debut in La Bête. He won an Obie Award off-Broadway, and in what might be his most magical post-Frasier chapter, Tom has performed the role of the wonderful Wizard of Oz in multiple productions of Wicked, on Broadway, on national tours, and even in London's West End. He has been married to his wife Kathy Cummings since 1991, and they have 2 children. A Yale-trained actor who became the Wizard of Oz. How's that for a life well lived? At number 6, prepare for the entrance of a true scene stealer, Harriet Sansom Harris. Born on January 8, 1955 in Fort Worth, Texas, she was 38 when she first appeared as the deviously brilliant agent Bebe Glazer on Frasier. Today, at 71, this woman is still commanding every stage and screen she touches. Bebe Glazer was Frasier's ruthless, scheming, magnificently manipulative talent agent, a woman who would literally do anything to close a deal. Harriet played her with such wicked glee that every guest appearance felt like a masterclass in comedy. Off-screen, Harriet's credentials are nothing short of extraordinary. She was accepted into the Juilliard School at just 17 years old. She won a Tony Award in 2002 for her role as Mrs. Mears in Thoroughly Modern Millie on Broadway. She has gone on to work with legendary directors in films like Phantom Thread and Licorice Pizza by Paul Thomas Anderson, and more recently in the television series The Agency. They prove that there is so much more to life than Hollywood fame. Harriet Sansom Harris has dedicated her life to the craft of acting with a quiet brilliance that speaks louder than any spotlight. We are getting close to the end, friends, and the best is yet to come. But before we get there, we need to take a moment for someone very special. Stay with me. Now we pause. we lower our voices, and we remember. John Mahoney. Born on June 20th, 1940 in Blackpool, England, John was 53 years old when he first sat down in that battered old recliner as Marty Crane, the gruff, no-nonsense retired police detective who was the beating heart of the Crane family. Marty Crane was the comforting father figure we all needed. While Frasier and Niles fussed over fine wines and opera, Marty just wanted his beer, his chair, and his dog Eddie. He was the anchor. He was home. What made John Mahoney's story so remarkable was that he never even began acting until he was nearly 40 years old. Before that, he had been a teacher of English literature at Western Illinois University and an editor for a medical journal in Chicago. He once said he was simply not happy, and one day, he decided to try. A chance friendship with John Malkovich brought him into the legendary Steppenwolf Theater Company in Chicago, and from there, he soared. He won a Tony Award in 1986 for The House of Blue Leaves. After Frasier ended, he returned to Chicago and to the theater he called his real home, performing with Steppenwolf until the very end. On February 4, 2018, John Mahoney left us at the age of 77. They are gone, but their memory will forever live on in the living rooms of our childhoods. At number 7, the man who stole every single scene he was ever in, David Hyde Pierce. Born on April 3, 1959 in Saratoga Springs, New York, David was 34 when Frasier began. Just 3 days ago, on April 3, 2026, he turned 67 years old, and time has been extraordinarily kind to this man. Dr. Niles Crane, where do we even begin? The fussy, fastidious, hopelessly romantic younger brother of Frasier, who spent years pining for Daphne Moon while married to the never-seen, terrifying Maris. Niles was our first crush for so many of us, that bookish, sensitive soul hiding behind designer suits and a devastating dry wit. The physical comedy alone, that iconic scene where Niles tries to iron his pants and nearly burns down the entire apartment, is the kind of thing you watch 100 times and still laugh. David graduated from Yale University with a double major in English and theater arts. He originally planned to become a concert pianist, but drama pulled him in. He added Hyde to his name to avoid confusion with another actor. His portrayal of Niles earned him 4 Primetime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series, with a record 11 consecutive nominations. Let that number sink in. 11. In a row. After Frasier, David chose the stage. He won a Tony Award in 2007 for his leading role in the musical Curtains. He directed the Broadway musical It Should Have Been You. He starred in a celebrated revival of Hello, Dolly. His talent has never dimmed. It has only shifted to different stages. David has been with writer and producer Brian Hargrove since the 1980s. They married in October 2008 in California. Away from the spotlight, David has been a passionate advocate for Alzheimer's research in honor of his grandfather and father, who both suffered from the disease. He even traveled to Washington, D.C. to testify before Congress in support of the National Alzheimer's Project Act. When asked about joining the Frasier revival, David graciously declined, saying he didn't see a reason to repeat his performance of Niles. And you know what? That quiet dignity, choosing to let a perfect thing remain perfect, might be the most Niles Crane thing he has ever done. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. Stepping out of the time machine for the very last time, at number 8, the man, the voice, the legend, Kelsey Grammer. Born Alan Kelsey Grammer on February 21, 1955, in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, he was 38 years old when Frasier began. Today, at 71, Kelsey Grammer stands tall as one of the most enduring and resilient talents in all of television history, and somehow, he just keeps getting better. Dr. Frasier Crane, the pompous, warm-hearted, opera-loving, sherry-sipping radio psychiatrist who somehow became one of the most beloved characters on television. Kelsey first brought Frasier to life on Cheers in 1984 and played the character for over 20 years, making it one of the longest-running roles performed by a single actor in primetime history. He is the first actor ever to receive Emmy nominations for playing the same character on 3 different shows: Cheers, Wings, and Frasier. Kelsey trained at the prestigious Juilliard School and made his Broadway debut in Macbeth. His voice, that unmistakable, richly resonant baritone, has become iconic in its own right. He voiced Sideshow Bob on The Simpsons for decades, Stinky Pete in Toy Story 2, and Dr. Hank McCoy, also known as Beast, in the X-Men film franchise. Most recently in The Marvels in 2023, with a return expected in Avengers Doomsday in 2026. The awards speak for themselves. 6 Emmy Awards, 3 Golden Globe Awards, a Screen Actors Guild Award, and a Tony Award. He once held the title of the highest-paid actor on television. In 2023, Kelsey brought Frasier Crane back in a revival series on Paramount+, which ran for 2 beloved seasons, proving that audiences never stopped loving this character. In 2025, he published a deeply personal book called Karen, A Brother Remembers, honoring the memory of his late sister. A book that reveals the remarkable strength and love behind the man we thought we knew. And in October 2025, he and his wife Katie Walsh welcomed their 4th child together, a son named Christopher, his 8th child overall. At 71, with a new baby, a new book, and a career that spans 5 decades, Kelsey Grammer has not slowed down for a single moment. He is still acting, still creating, still growing, and still making us feel like family every time he appears on our screens. Time for a confession. Which cast member was your absolute biggest childhood crush growing up? Don't be shy, drop their name in the comments. And more importantly, who did you used to watch this show with? Share your favorite family memories of Friday Night TV below. Subscribe for more wholesome trips down memory lane.